Wow, why is this NU? Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel! In the recent balance changes, Terrakion was moved to the PU borderline tier, so we wanted to give it a look. When it first debuted in Gen 5, it really dominated the OU tier. It eventually slipped down to the UU tier, but was always a very solid Pokemon. Terrakion was actually full PU, but was immediately banned to the borderline tier. Which I could see why. The Pokemon has great power with stab, close combat, and Stone Edge, has utility with Stealth Rock, and has a bunch of different sets that it could use, such as Choice Band, which is what I'm using in this video, Choice Scarf, Swords Dance, you name it, it could probably use it. I think Terrakion was going to drop, just not all the way down to PU. Maybe UU or RU, but I think this is a little too much. I mean, you can see here I'm able to two-shot the Glogger with Stone Edge. I know I have the +1 justified boost, but I think the point still stands. I think what really messed up Terrakion was the release of Iron Boulder. Iron Boulder is crazy popular right now, and I think Terrakion is feeling that the most. I think Terrakion also struggles against Great Tusk and is also outclassed by Great Tusk, who is also one of the best OU Pokemon. I think in due time Terrakion will rise back up to probably the UU or at least RU tier. That would be my prediction, but we'll see how true that ends up being. But what do you guys think? Comment down below what tier you think Terrakion will end up in, because he definitely does not belong in NU as I clean up the Umbreon with the close combat. But let's check out the rest of the game. He goes into the Galarian Slowbro, I switch into my Avalugg, he goes for that Slack Off, gets all of his health back. He fires off the Shell Sidearm, Avalugg eats that right up. I go for the Gyro Ball, do absolutely nothing. Avalugg is a fantastic physical wall, but unfortunately does not have a lot of firepower. As I take another Shell Sidearm, go for the Avalanche, he eats that right up. Goes for one more Shell Side, takes out the Avalugg. We go into another severely underrated Pokemon, the Ambipom, go for the Fake Out, do that good damage, force him to flinch, take that Life Orb. He then switches into the Serena. I go for the double hit, do about half to him. Expecting the fighting move, I go into my Dragalge, but he actually ends up going for the Play Rough, which I eat up with no problem. Goes for a knockoff, does big damage, gets rid of my Vest. I go for the Dragon Pulse, take out the Serena. My opponent then goes into his own Terrakion, which has a pretty cool set. He goes for the Earthquake, takes out my Dragalge. I go back into my Terrakion and get the ultimate mirror match, but he decides to switch back into the Slowbro. I go for the close combat, he eats that right up. I want to prove my Terrakion's better, so I switch into the Goodra. He goes for the Slack Off, gets all of his health back. I then fire off a Draco, do that big damage, but he's able to hang on. He goes for the T-Wave, paralyzes my Goodra. I fire off another Draco, clean up the Slowbro. The last Pokemon is in a Terrakion. I decide to switch back into my Ambipom. He goes for the Terra Normal Quick Attack, cleans up my Ambipom. Personally, I like the Choice Band set better, but I go back into my Terrakion, tank the Quick Attack, go for the close combat, clean him up in one shot. Good game. Alright, let's get into game number 2, going up against a cool Rain team. He starts off with the Politoed, gets that Rain going. I go into the Ambipom. He protects into my knockoff, I do absolutely nothing. He then switches into the Overquill. I fire for another knockoff, do barely anything but get rid of that Life Orb. Knowing this beast has Swift Swim and has a huge physical attack coming this way, I go into the Avalugg. He goes for the Crunch, which I eat up with no problem. Realizing he can't do too much, he goes into the Ludicolo. I go for the Gyro Ball, do a little bit to him. Underestimating Ludicolo, I then make a big misplay. He goes for the Weather Ball, takes me out in one shot. Ludicolo is an awesome Pokemon who I definitely want to use in another video. I go into the Goodra, he goes for the Ice Beam, which I eat up with no problem. Retaliate with the Sludge Bomb, take out the Ludicolo. Goodra is a fantastic special defense, but unfortunately physically does not do as well. He goes for the Terra Water Wave Crash with the Floatzel, even with a resisted hit, takes me out. Banded Floatzel in the rain is definitely a problem. I go back into the Ambipom as he switches into his Politoed. I go for the knockoff, get rid of that Damp Rock. The rain finally goes away as he then goes into his Palossand. I go for the double hit, do absolutely nothing. I decide to stay in and go for the knockoff, do about half to him and get rid of his boots. He's able to retaliate with the Scorching Sand, and Ambipom eats that right up. I go for another knockoff, he just hangs on. He's then able to go for the Shore Up and get all that health back. I fire off another knockoff, but does not do much. He goes for the Scorching Sand, is able to take out my Ambipom. My next Pokemon is in the Dragalge. I'm able to outspeed, go for the Scald, take out the Sandcastle. He goes back into the Politoed, is able to get that rain going again, goes for the Whirlpool, completely misses my Dragalge. I go for the T-Bolt, do big damage. He goes for the Perish Song, I'm able to go for another T-Bolt, take out the Toad. Unfortunately, Toad Gaming had to take out the Politoed. He then goes into the big threat, the Floatzel, goes for the Flip Turn, does huge damage even with the resisted hit, goes into the Overquill, I go for the T-Bolt, do a nice chunk. That Perish count is getting low, I still got some time. He goes for the Crunch, I'm able to tank that, go for the Scald, take out the Overquill. That rain is still coming down, and I got one more twang on the Perish count. He goes back into the Floatzel, goes for the Wave Crash, finally takes me out. Thankfully, I was able to survive the rain turns. I then go into my Terrakion, and now we're ready to finish up this game. He switches into the Oricorio, I go for the Stone Edge, take him out in one shot. His last Pokemon is in the Floatzel. He goes for the Aqua Jet, I'm able to tank that, go for the Stone Edge, clean up the Floatzel. Good game. Alrighty, and that's the video. Please know what you guys think down below and stay tuned for future content. Peace!